part of it is, it's not an easy trip to bring someone back. You need, and this is what frustrates me so much about what we just did with the mustard seed and that. I'm not against where they're putting the mustard seed. I'm not against the mustard seed. I'm against why do we use the same playbook for failure?
This episode of Bring Back the Porch, brought to you by Bernie Leahy, River Street Realty. Let's get you home. Alan Rose is our guest now, another mayoral candidate for Medicine Hat in 2025. Alan, welcome.
Thank you.
Now, you ran in 2021 and came in third. Discouraged by that last run, or encouraged that it was, the first step towards becoming the mayor of Medicine Hat?
A little discouraged, but given the circumstances, there's quite a lot of limitations put on. So not having the social profile at that time and being able to contact people by social media instead of directly, it was a little discouraging. But like I say, I take things as they come, and I still contributed through my numerous letters to the editor and getting hold of people and discussing things and in the political arena behind the scenes.
Now, you became involved, I believe, with the first carnation of the Medicine Hat Ratepayers Association.
Yes, I was president of the first incarnation of that.
How did you give birth to that?
We got talking together, a bunch of us came together, and we're talking about things we'd seen in City Hall that were ineffective. And things like the decision to put at that place, co-op place up in Briar Park. And the amount of money we had spent on that when there was another alternative that was brought and ignored that wasn't costing as much. And we kept seeing tax increase. And a lot of my friends are business owners, and they're saying how hard they have it. Now, I do have rentals also. And my tenants were explaining to me, how they're having trouble with their utilities, with their taxes. So we started to get together, and we thought, well, there hasn't been a ratepayer society in Medicine Hat for like 20 years. We may as well set one up. And that's what we did. And I made a couple of addresses to City Hall before the COVID came and changed everything. But we were working on it. But then when COVID came, everything kind of went in dissolution. Then I stepped down so I could run for office.
Okay. Now, you have on your platform, on your webpage, some things that you, list as your planks, the things that are important to you. I just want to go through them if you have a few moments here.
Yeah.
The first thing, I don't know if it's in order or not, but you've got support for small business. And you mentioned many of your friends are in small business.
Yes, it is one. It's always a cornerstone. I mean, the big changes come with manufacturing and that, but it's the small businesses that drive the community. And it's actually, they provide more benefit than the big factories and that take the money out. Small businesses tend to spend their money back in the community. So when they come to me and say they can't get a business license, their development permits are held up, they got 30 restrictions on things, and their taxes are going up, they can't afford the taxes, a business license just went up like crazy, that comes out of their pocket. And some of them, a lot of people think if you own a small business, you're independently wealthy. Sometimes, and believe me, I've been there, we've owned our own businesses too. Sometimes you're the lowest paid employee and you're doing it because you like it, but you also want to look after your employees. So it makes hard decisions that they have to go through. And some delay their retirement, and some have to just call it quits, and some people lose a lot because they're on that knife edge all the time. So that's why, like I say, that's part of the reasons for getting behind the ratepayers too, was to help those people.
I think things that people don't realize in small business that, when your business property tax goes up, your utilities go up, your business licenses go up, that all becomes a cost of doing business. And where does that get passed on to?
Yeah.
To the consumer.
And see, that's the part that I tried to explain. I did a video on this about the failure of council last time to fight hard to keep the property tax increase to zero. They didn't do hard decisions. Yes, there would have been cuts that may have had to be made or that, but because they passed that on to the people, they got 5%, 5.6% increase. Those people can't just ask for more. If you're a business, maybe you have to lay off an employee. Maybe you have to take money out of your savings. Maybe you have to work 5 years longer. You know, a business, as a household person, maybe you can't get your car fixed. Maybe you can't afford to send your kids away to something special or pay their hockey fees. But the thing is, with the city, they got the advantage. If you don't pay them, they come take your stuff away. So that's what the unfairness is, and that's what I expect more from a council, to be sensitive to that.
So as mayor, what would you do to make it better for small business in Medicine Hat?
Well, my whole thing is I want to cooperate. I'd like a council that gets along, can cooperate, and we can be inventive in what we do. And I would try to remove a lot of the red tape. I would want to work towards getting cuts done. And I've said it before, people tell me that's naive, but I've been in the oil and gas and chemical industry, and the chemical industry very well. Anyone who's worked in there knows we can have great years and then we can have horrible years. And in those horrible years, your boss will come to you and say, you got to make a 5% cut. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts. If you don't make that 5% cut, then next year we're out of business. And you can find them. There's some things that you think are nice to haves, you mistake them for must haves. And we're in the days now that we need to decide to get rid of the nice to haves and provide relief to the people of Medicine Hat.
One of the choices, and you mentioned the hard choices that have to be made when you're looking at a budget, is to also increase the revenue side, and that maybe dovetails into economic development, which is another key plank in your platform.
Yeah, there's two sides to that. I'll go on the economic development. One of the things that's always restricted now, I started my career here in Medicine Hat with Alberta Gas Chemicals, and it was a very good organization, run very well. But they understood they were on knife edge. And their biggest expense was getting the methanol out of Medicine Hat. And they had to ship it on the rail line out to Vancouver. They did try some deviations to see if they could sneak cars through other ways, and they got caught, and the railways told them no. But you can't pipeline the stuff out. So they have a restricted market. And the other factories here, like CF and that, they've got a restricted market. Everything, if you notice, if you go from Tabor to Fort McLeod, you see factory, 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 factory. And you see before Tabor, nothing. You see after Fort McLeod, nothing. And that's because we only have one commercial port, and that port is Coutts. So everything to the southern market, and it's a huge market. It's also another way to get to the coast. But Havre, it has the second largest rail yard in Montana. It also sits on the number 2 High Line, the number 2 interstate that gives you east and west access to the markets. If we can go straight through Havre, then we'll cut almost 5 hours off of travel time, because right now, product from here has to go down to Coutts and then come back. And I know we used to ship propane from the Empress plant out through there. And we could get some, if you can get a permit if you justify that's important to the American economy. So we could get some propane shipments through because places were using it for heating and that. So we could get a permit, but they had to be leaving our plant by 1 o'clock in the afternoon to guarantee they get through Wildhorse, or it got too expensive. Mm. So that's why, like I say, I'm pushing for that. And the U.S. government's in favor of it, because I don't know if you've been down through Wildhorse, but you notice a big difference between the Canadian facilities and the Americans. The Americans improved the highway to Havre, and then they built that huge facility there. And they were very much in favor, but the ball got dropped on this side. And this is why I want to put a lot of emphasis on there, because once we do that, we will see a tectonic change in Medicine Hat. We will now become a trucking center and a manufacturing center.
Economic development also broadens the tax base.
Yeah, that's when you get we saw that was supposed to happen with Aurora. You know, you get that, and this is the thing. When you got a boom of any kind of economy, no one complains about minimum wage, no one complains about spending, because everyone's got money. But when you're suffering like us, that goes down. And the other side, I would say, with economic development is we've got to stop losing money. We keep doing projects that are losing money. Like, I know the last information I got from council before I stepped down about Co-op Place, it was losing $3 million a year. And I've never seen anything on how to mitigate that. No one's brought up any ideas, any creative solutions to mitigate it. What can we do? But that's a lot of money to lose. And then we keep doing these projects that come out and they're not well thought out, they're not consulted, and we spend a lot of money, like the small traffic circles up on Division, where they spent probably $1 million, and then they say, drive over them. Don't worry about them. I mean, this is $1 million of the people's money who can't feed their family, pay their taxes or utilities. I mean, how that consultation doesn't occur. Like, I was just down in Riverside because they're talking about it down there, and I was talking with the people from the community, and actually I would like to see a lot more of those held. That was very good. People put their name on their shirt with a tag and where they lived and how long they've been there. And you could go around and talk to them, and I wondered, why as a city don't we host more in each community like that so we can go out and talk to them? Why are we afraid to talk to these people? I mean, we're their employee. You know, you should know what your boss expects of you. And that's why I get so concerned when we start hiring lawyers to block people from coming in and talking to the counselors. I mean, how did we get to the point that we infuriate people so much? You know, that's, I think we need a reset on.
As mayor of Medicine Hat, would you be a salesman for Medicine Hat?
Oh, yeah. I've had other companies. In 2004, I was importing electric bikes, just a little too far ahead of the curve again. But I went out, branded that, and I was lucky enough, I sold it off to some people, and they didn't do it, but I loved the branding. I just got rid of another company I had just before COVID. I owned part of a factory in China, and we were manufacturing small electronics, Bluetooth headsets, power banks, cables, and such. And I worked on that, branding it too. And we got into co-ops, we got into a lot of big stores, home hardwares and that. And then I sold it off. So that was called Power Seed. And a lot of people in Medicine Hat have probably seen it. But no, I like that. And that's what I think it takes. Like, I've got a lot of ideas that I think would do even simple things as when I was a child. I remember in my hometown that I called it, it's Claire's home. If you had a wedding or something, you could go to the town office and give a list of names, and the mayor would send out letters to each invitations to each person to come attend your wedding, and it had a whole thing about what Claire's home had and what they could do, but it made the people feel more special because they got, and I wouldn't mind doing something like that. I mean, what's it take? If we got a convention or something come, have the mayor sit up there, do a 10-minute video for them, and then include a tag on it with all the sites they can see here. Because even if they don't come, they may still get curious and want to come just because of what we put on there. It's basically free advertising.
You mentioned that you were involved with the electronics plant in China.
Yeah.
Why would that plant not have been set up in Canada or even in Medicine Hat?
Because people would not spend the money to buy it. They're going to find that out in the U.S. To make an iPhone in the U.S. is going to cost almost $9,000. I mean, we were paying our employees $26 US a day. But the caveat on that is we had to supply them with a dormitory. So they got a room where they lived, and there could only be 2 people per room. Now there had to be a washroom for every 4 rooms, and there had to be showers for every 10 rooms. But we also had to provide them either with actual protein or money to buy protein each week. Each one had a kitchen in it. And we had to give them a gym membership to a facility for a gym. So essentially, and we paid the utilities. So essentially all they did, the $26 was tax-free, free money to them. So it's not quite as bad, but because we're at that level, that's why everyone's leaving and going to Vietnam and Cambodia and that, where they can pay the guys now $8, $9. But the sad part is, I mean, why do people buy on Amazon instead of in Medicine Hat?
Buy local.
Yeah, but they won't do that because they don't want to pay. Everyone's suffering. Everyone's tight.
Yeah, so it becomes a circle because, okay, now your taxes are higher, everything's higher, so you're looking to save money. And if it's cheaper over here,
yeah.
So if you get back and correct the problem, money stays here.
Oh, but you can't. The other thing is the cost of setting up manufacturing is going to be way different than they think now. I've been in that part, and it doesn't hire a lot of people anymore. Like, we had people hand putting together devices. Now it's robots. You can, same factory used to employ 200,000 people, probably now will employ 5,000. So, I mean, This is the thing. We've got to advance, and that's why we've got to look for the way to make Medicine Hat better is, like I say, small business will reinvest in the city. Big business, not so much, but they give the jobs, and that allows the spending on the small businesses. Mm-hmm. So what we've got to look at is if we can get the manufacturing here, people will have the money to be able to pay for the rest, but we need to keep on the cusp of the demand. Like if you noticed when Spitz was sold to Pepsi, first thing they did was move it. Mm-hmm. Because it was too expensive to ship out of here. And that's the thing. If you're a manufacturer, you want to set up a factory, you're going to set it up in Lethbridge. That's why Lethbridge is going like this and we're going like this.
Transportation.
Yeah. It's access to market and cost. Because then again, a lot of people don't understand a lot of big industries too. Big industries sometimes only are earning 6-7%. They may make it per month, but if they have a few bad months, they can be negative relatively quickly. So they got to be very aware of what their costs are. And again, it's us putting our desires on people that can't get that expectation. Like Costco, their average markup is 14% on their products. They make all their money almost off the membership. Mm-hmm. But why do people go to Costco and they don't go to Walmart? Because it's cheaper. And that's what the whole thing's drive. As long as we understand ourselves, what drives us, then we look for markets that aren't dependent on that. But if we can get into the industries that are coming up and we can fulfill, that's our specialty.
Moving into another plank in your platform, mental health services, and this is probably one that we can see the effects of just walking down the street in Medicine Hat. All the people in the parks, the people who are having issues with homelessness and all the crime that people are associating with that. So what would you do as mayor to help improve our mental health?
Okay, well, I've been downtown and talking to the people who are homeless down here. One of my advisors that works with me, Guinevere, she was homeless and had problems before, but now her son is downtown and they can't get him home. And he's OD'd once and been brought back. So I work with them to find out, and part of it is it's not an easy trip to bring someone back. You need, and this is what frustrates me so much about what we just did with the mustard seed and that. I'm not against where they're putting the mustard seed. I'm not against the mustard seed. I'm against why do we use the same playbook for failure? Because when mustard seed first came here, they took over the Champion Center, but they didn't want them there, so they moved them over to that church in the Flats. And they didn't consult the neighbors. They didn't have the zoning done. So what happened? It failed. So now they got all this kerfuffle. So then when I was downtown the one day talking to the homeless people, it came out the announcement they're moving it out by the Flying J. So I asked these homeless people, how are you going to go? I don't know. I asked some of the nonprofits that day, how are you going to? So then I went up there. And as soon as I talked to some of the businesses, the first response I got, it's referred to our legal department. And I found from inside knowledge, like I say, I know a lot of people in Medicine Hat, they tell me stuff in confidence, that it's not zoned for the purpose. So now we have to go through a rezoning. So what is going to be the chance that people, and I've also got a lot of people from Access Condos contacted me. What is a chance that's not going to be very expensive and a lot of legal challenges going? Because we didn't invite them in. Why are we so afraid to go to these people and say, we'd like this? How can it work? And see what all their concerns are, see if we can address them, then see if we can afford it. Not try to force people to do it. And there's other things we need too. Like when you talk about mental health, I've talked with the skateboard people. And you go down to Kincooley, you see they got a really good skate park, but there are better ones. But these guys paid over 80% of it themselves. And the city was resistant to give them anything. Where one of the things is, I know in Creston, BC, I can talk about that emphatically. It has a better facility than we have. There's 5,000 people there. And every time I go down there, there's kids there all the time. And guess what they're not doing? They're not on their phone. They're not sitting around bored. They're active. They're like how I used to be when I was young. We're out on our bikes. We're doing things. But if we don't give them avenues, we're going to get these problems. And it's a very slippery slope to get into addiction. And believe me, I want to do everything that we can to get these people out. And I have some different ideas. Some of the people I'm consulting with, they have some different ideas. And I want to get into a council and bring everyone and bring these nonprofits in and ask them, what can we do together to straighten this out? Instead of everyone having their own idea, we need to get together to discuss this.
And that also leads into another problem we've seen with housing and affordability.
Yeah.
That's another plank in your platform.
Yeah, and I've tossed out a couple ideas. Of course, before it, 1,000 people declared. I was getting kind of closed on mine because I've been in politics a long time, and people would come out and say, you know, you give your policy, and then they go, oh, my policy's this, and then they claim that they came out with it. And you're going like, no, but one of the things I've thought about, see, we keep giving to developers, and that's never, and again, I'm in real estate. I've done a lot in real estate. I understand real estate, but I know what a developer's going to do. He's going to buy the land cheaper. We just had that happen. Those 6 lots or whatever was for $895, and they sold it for $560 something. It was just in the paper yesterday. The developer's going to buy that, and then he's going to sell the house for as much as he can get. But if we have places like Burnside, since I've been in Medicine Hat, I've always heard of Burnside. I've never seen anything in Burnside. We have that land there. Why can't we, as a city, sit there and say, okay, this is part of our reserve. This is part of our asset. Now we've got invested money for the city's long-term heritage fund. Why can't we take some of that money out of there, and invest it in housing on land we own, but we don't have to include the return on the capital for the land because it's banked, it's sitting there. It's actually costing us. But what we can do is build housing there at a lower cost because the land's the expensive part, and take the money from the Heritage Fund, put it in there, but then partner with a private entity to manage this for us, where we keep the rents on qualification, but still make sure we return 6 to 7% return on that investment. That helps the cap, because that's what, whenever you do a project, like the big REITs that are out now, they're looking for 15 to 20% return on their capital employed. So they're in money making. That's why the rents are up. Okay, the government changed the standard in 2008 and allowed more people to enter the market. So these REITs became really popular. They came in, they get money from a lot of investors, promises them big returns, and then they're stuck there. They have to charge the rents to make those returns. But as average, I'll tell you, my business model for my rentals were always, I expected 7 to 10% return on my capital employed on my rentals after the operating expenses and maintenance. And that's acceptable. That used to be the standard till these big operators came in. But why can't the city? We're getting 5-6% on our money. If we can take some of that, put it on land we're not using, and actually stop it from devaluing, and maybe return some back to us and give us the same return, that's a win-win, and it's not that hard. But I'm not for selling to developers cheaper, because we get nothing out of that.
REIT, maybe you want to explain what that is for someone who's wondering what that acronym means.
Okay, it's a real estate income trust. It's a tax-preferred way for a realty corporation to bring in their money and distribute it in a tax-friendly way through dividends and that. So that's the main reason. But the company running it also makes a nice profit on operating, just like you do with mutual funds.
Okay. All right. Transparency. You alluded to it earlier where some people felt the city wasn't being transparent enough. They were constantly going to the city for information, and then it was causing problems in City Hall. As the mayor, what would you do to correct that?
Well, I've already committed in my platform is that I would be very open to have quarterly meetings, town halls that I would attend, and I'd take all questions. Because again, my perspective is I am the employee of the employer. And that puts pressure on me to make sure that I am sitting there making decisions in council that I have to explain later. Because it's not so hard. If you're not doing anything wrong and you understand the decision you're making, why can't you explain it to people? Like, sure, I will agree, some people will not be happy. because it just doesn't. This is a democracy. So yeah, there's times 60% are going to get, 40% are going to be upset, but you should still be able to be there and explain it.
I have heard from some of the other candidates that perhaps their efforts at being transparent in this council, doing more business in open than opposed to closed, might have given the impression that they didn't know what they were doing because they were trying to be as out in the public and open as possible. Any
I don't
reaction
know.
to that?
Yeah, my view, and believe me, I've been watching them for a long time. My view on that is more, they aren't doing their homework ahead of time. I don't think they really I agree. If we have and I've talked to some other council candidates that are running, and there's a few that are on the same page as me, so I do hope they get in, even if I don't, because they'll be drivers for this, is that you come from behind the scenes. As a mayor, I'm the team leader. Now, I worked on a lot of other teams as a leader and as a member. It's the team leader's job to make sure all the other team members are up to speed at the same level and have the same information so that they can then discuss coherently what's happening. What we see in Medicine Hat is, well, if I had known that before I voted, I wouldn't have voted that way. And you just go like, what? How did we get to this position? Like that reflective solar plant that they built. The city lost about $10 million of our money, $16 million overall with the government grants, because it didn't work. And the end result was, well, at least we know it doesn't work now.
You're referring to the Riverside Waterslide project, yeah.
The reflective solar. Mm-hmm. And you go like, that's $10 million. This is what I say, if we stop losing money, that'll have a big enough effect too. And the transparency, like I say, I can see it's very apparent that some people aren't prepared coming into council. And you can't really blame them on that because, I mean, it is a part-time job. They have a full-time job. But it's a team leader's job to keep in communication with them and help them. This is a thing of a team like that. If everyone on the team works with the same idea to make each one successful, then the team will be successful and the city will be successful. It's not that hard a concept.
One of the jobs of a councillor in Medicine Hat is, of course, overseeing the energy division. There have been a proposal for a municipally controlled corporation, sort of an arm's length way to take a lot of that off the plate of city council. Where do you stand on that?
Well, I fully understand why everyone is so tied to it. It's in our DNA. The city has controlled it for so long. But there have been some, what I would call, questionable decisions that I would not have seen in industry. The last one with the Samus Solar Project, it confused the heck out of me because council approved $7.4 million to buy the project from DP Energy. Then they asked for $600,000 to do a feasibility study. And you go like, did I hear that right? Are we backwards? This is like you put in a $10,000 deposit down on a truck, non-refundable, and then reading the manual to see if you can tow your trailer with it. Like, how did we get this? And how, I can understand. Again, it's going to have to fall on the mayor to find the answers. And like I say, I'm not saying I know everything I know, but I do know a lot of people, and I'm not afraid to call them. And that's the advantage I offer. Because, like I say, when you're looking at situations like that with the electrical net, the market's going to get very competitive. Like once small modular nuclear comes out, it's just going to be wild because our energy use will jump. Because once you restrain these, and if you already look now, like if you look at the AI, artificial intelligence takes a lot of energy. I mean, for you to ask a question on ChatGPT takes enough power to light a 100-watt bulb for 30 minutes. And look how many people are asking questions constantly. And once we get this, and the move to electric vehicles is going to happen. They may not be fully electric, but we're going to have a lot more than we have now. And we did that in early days. I was born in Winnipeg, and I remember the trolleys there that ran by the cables and that. I mean, and they worked fine.
Calgary City buses used to be electrified.
I remember that down on 7th and Center. Yeah. So, I mean, we got to be aware of this. So I think we're going to need more governance on the unit, but it is a position that I think the people should be brought in. It should be cleared to them what they're voting on, and it's got to be a referendum. If we can't explain why we should move or should not move or what the advantages and disadvantages are, then we're in trouble. We're not doing our job. But any move on that should not be done by council. It should be by referendum.
Let the people choose.
Yes, because it is. It's part of our heritage. It's part of our image. We call ourselves the gas city. But if you look now, natural gas is killing us. So, I mean, it could be electrical pretty soon.
One final thing I wanted to get into from your platform is the city infrastructure. Where are we standing? Do you think we're in good position, or do we have a deficit that we're going to have to make up?
Oh, we have a deficit. I mean, the sewer lines up in Southridge, the concrete ones that failed, and they had to do them, but then we got wooden pipes down in the flats and that. It's a deficit. And I looked at the transportation plan, and I don't know why. I can't find anything in the transportation plan that mentions transit. Like, I look at it, and I've ridden the bus here, and there's a reason I don't ride the bus. Because it's like over 2 hours to go from my house in Ross Glen to up by Co-op in the north. So I could almost walk that distance in a day. So you won't use it. But we don't have anything like skeletal roads. Somehow we miss that. A skeletal road would be like how Deerfoot Trail is in Calgary, okay? Like, my idea was to connect Division with a new bridge and go north and south Division and go straight up into Northlands. And you could go all the way from Southridge to Northlands. Let that be a higher speed, an alternate to the highway, but it dissects the city. And by doing that, you'll have people who can go direct. They're not going to go through these communities anymore. So it calms them naturally. And yet you could have express buses going north and south, and then have collector community buses coming out, doing smaller routes, coming in and out, connecting these with these expresses, which again will make it more efficient. And that's, like I say, I don't know why that's not in the plans.
What would you do if you were in charge of transit? Is that what you would do? Would have sort of make feeder buses that would run just in neighborhoods and then transfer? And
that's what everywhere else does. I mean, I go to Manhattan once a year, and I take the crosstown and the subway. Subway is up and down express, crosstown, and that's how everyone. In China, same way happens. I mean, in Europe, I go down, whether I'm in Munich, Hamburg, whatever, same thing. But I wouldn't do it. I would try to get council together and then put the pressure on our administration to develop plans in compliance with that, with best practices, and make sure they link together. Because each one affects each one. And to have a traffic plan without putting an emphasis on transit doesn't seem pertinent to me.
Alan, sum up why people should put their X beside your name on the ballot.
Well, if they really want to see an example of collaboration and openness, that's the main reasons. Because I will be open. This is why I came in early. I wanted a booth at the Stampede because I wanted to get people's contact right away. I've been to a bunch of other organizations at Grange to Glory, the Riverside. I'm holding another meet and greet here on Thursday. I've had one earlier. I'm trying to get out to as many people as we can because all I look at myself is to make this city better, because I understand all the people before us put up with a lot of things, did a lot of hard work to get us to where we are. Now it's our turn to do that. There's people that didn't have the advantages I had when I came to Medicine Hat. And that's what made me a better life. Now it's my turn to help them get the advantages back so they can have a better life.
Alan Rose, thank you very much.
Okay.